The Smartdimension tool can be found on the Sketch toolbar. Notice it has a flyout menu that lists several options, including ordinate dimensions. In this lesson, I'll be focusing on the default Smartdimension tool. Since Smart Dimensions are something that you will most likely be working with often, I'll show you a couple of different ways to access the tool. One method is by right-clicking anywhere in the graphics area. You can also press the S key on the keyboard to access the shortcut toolbar. Or alternatively, mouse gestures are a fast and convenient way to access it by holding down the right mouse button and moving your mouse. When you activate the Smartdimension tool, an icon appears next to the cursor indicating that the tool is active. All you have to do is select the geometry that you would like to add a dimension to. If I select this horizontal line, you can see a preview of the dimension. Clicking again will place the dimension. When I do, a pop-up appears where I can type in the value. Notice there is also a spin box here, as well as a thumb wheel that can be used to adjust the dimension. To accept the dimension, you can either press Enter on the keyboard or click the green check. To move the dimension, you can always click and hold the mouse button down as you move it on the screen. To modify the value of a dimension like this, you can double-click on it to open the Modify window you saw a moment ago. The Smartdimension tool is powerful because it allows you to select a combination of sketch entities to get the dimension you want. To dimension the vertical height of this area here, I could select the vertical line to do this, but instead watch as I select the horizontal line I picked a moment ago, and rather than placing the dimension, I'll select this other horizontal line. Solidworks automatically switches this to be a vertical dimension, and I can now locate it and type in the value. Instead of selecting line segments, you can also select the endpoint of lines. When I do this, notice as I move the pointer, the preview shows there are actually three possibilities for the dimension: horizontal, the absolute length, and vertical. Depending on where I click to locate the dimension will determine which type of dimension is added. Here's a tip. What if you want to add the absolute length dimension, but wanted to locate it over here? Notice the mouse icon next to the pointer. You can actually lock the orientation of the dimension by right-clicking and moving the mouse to where you would like to locate it. Right-clicking again will unlock the orientation. I'll go ahead and lock it and place the dimension here. I'll type in a value and click OK. Next, watch as I select these two angled line segments here. Solidworks previews an angular dimension, and again, if I move the pointer, you can see the different possibilities for the dimension. Clicking again will locate the dimension and control its value. Let me switch over to another sketch to show you a few more options when working with circles and arcs. I'll go ahead and launch the Smartdimension tool from the shortcut toolbar by pressing S on the keyboard. If I select this arc here, notice SolidWorks automatically previews the dimension as a radial dimension. I'll click again to locate it, type in a value, and click OK. If I next dimension one of the circles, you can see from the preview that this will be a diameter dimension. When dimensioning between two circles or arcs, there are a few more options that I would like you to be aware of. Notice as I select both of these circles, SolidWorks automatically connects the leaders to the center points of each circle. I'll go ahead and add this dimension and show you some options in case you ever need to adjust this. If I highlight the dimension, you can see its property manager appears. Here you can adjust the properties for the dimension's value, such as its tolerance and precision, and quite a few others. If I switch over to the Leader tab and scroll down, there's a section called Arc Condition. Here I can control where the leaders of the dimension are attached, such as the minimum condition for each or the maximum. Let me show you another way to control this graphically. I'll click OK to dismiss the property manager. If I click on the dimension to highlight it, notice the dots that appear where the leaders connect. These are drag handles that you can move by clicking and holding down your mouse button and dragging them. You can even attach these to different sketch entities if you wish. Before wrapping up, I'd like to switch over to one last sketch to show you a couple more options. Another benefit of Smart Dimensions in Solidworks is that the dimensions you add in your 3D parts can be imported later into your 2D drawings for documentation purposes. If I double-click this dimension here, notice there is a button depressed, and if I roll my cursor over it, it says, Mark Dimension to be imported into a drawing. This option is on by default in SolidWorks and is useful because oftentimes the dimensions you add when designing the part in 3D may be the same dimensions you might use in the 2D documentation. In this case, however, if the sketch I'm working with here were to be used for a revolve feature about the center line, this dimension here would result in a radial dimension, which probably isn't ideal for documentation or inspection. I'll go ahead and delete this dimension. When dimensioning to center lines, SolidWorks provides the ability to change from linear to diameter dimensions. If I move my cursor to the other side of the center line, you can see the extension lines representing what the diameter of the finished revolve feature will be. Keep in mind this behavior is only available when dimensioning to center lines.